Adeniki, you're fired. Lindsay, you're fired.
Thanks.
And on that basis, Miranda, I've got to tell you, you're fired. I'm sorry that you have to go, but that's life.
I have got personal emotional problems that's happening in my life, and I'm sorry, this isn't for me. I am going to leave today. So, Saran, I'd like to make your job a lot easier, and Tim, I'd like to make your job a lot easier. I'm going to leave it at that.
But Matthew, I'm sorry to say, my friend, you're fired.
That's right.
When it comes to bullshit, they have forgotten what you haven't even learnt yet about all this crap. You wasted your time. And because you wasted your time, and because you say and claim to be an expert in advertising in your own CV, it brings me to the conclusion that, Rachel, I'm sorry, you're fired. You're fired. You know, you say in your CV, in my career, I win all the time. Well, I'll tell you, this time you haven't won, because this time you're fired. I'm sorry to say I'm going to have to let you go. You're fired. Miriam, you're fired.
Thanks for the experience, it was amazing.
You're fired. I've got to listen to what other people are saying to me. And there's too many vibes coming through that says to me, Paul, I'm going to have to let you go. You're fired. And I've made up my mind now. Tim, you're hired. Ben, you're fired. I think you did a bad job as a project manager. Nargis, you're fired. I've heard nothing from you, Karen. You haven't stood up for yourself. I don't need more corporate lawyers. You're fired. You're a lightweight. You're fired. Manny, you're fired. But Joe, I'm sorry to say, this time, you are fired.
I was sort of expecting this because I accept the fact that I've been here 4 times, but I think what that demonstrates is that I've got resilience. I'm a survivor. I'm happy to go out here on the basis of, like, being crap, but I don't believe that I am leaving here.
Joe, there comes a time when everybody is saying the same thing, and even me, I will say, you know what? Give it up, Alan. Enough's enough. Joe, you're fired. You're fired. Okay. Sharon, you're fired. You're fired. Thank you. Saeed, despite some flashes of genius, you're too much of a risk for me. Saeed, you're fired. I've got to tell you, Paul, you haven't convinced me today, right? So, Paul, I'm letting you go. Paul, you're fired. Ansel, you're a very, very fine fellow. But Ansel, regretfully, I've got to say to you, you're fired. But Michelle, you're hired. Andy, you're fired.
Sir Alan, can I say anything at this point to change your mind?
It is with regret, Ifty, that I'm going to have to say to you, you're fired. You're fired. You tell me you're a slow starter. I don't need slow starters. Jerry, you're fired. Sophie, you're fired. Natalie, with regret, you're fired. You're a total shambles. You're fired.
Thanks, sir.
Adam, your luck has run out. You're fired. Gazelle, you're fired.
Thanks, sir.
Jadine, you're fired. So Naomi, with regret, you're fired. you're fired.
Thanks.
I can't see you slotting in the organisation. Trey, with regret, I'm going to have to say to you, you're fired.
Thank you.
Okay. I think it's more important that I have the courtesy to get my plans in place first. And therefore, I suggest I stand down.
It's time for me to make a decision, and Simon, do you know what? Bloody old fool as I am, I'm going to take that risk. Simon, you're hired.
Yes! Thank you, Simon. Thank you so much.
You're fired. Shazia,
Please.
you're fired. Ian, you're fired. Sorry, my friend, I think you're a bit out of your depth here. And with regret, you're fired.
Thank you for a wonderful opportunity.
And that brings me to a conclusion that Lindy, you're fired. Kevin, you're fired. No good. No good. Sorry, same old story. Jenny, you're fired. Goodbye. So Jennifer, you're fired.
Thank you.
Sarah, you're fired. You're fired.
Thank you, Sir Alan.
Michael, I think this time I have to say to you, you're fired.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Lucinda, I'm afraid to say that you're a little bit too zany for me. You're fired. Alex and Helene, you are fired from this process.
Thank you for everything.
Lee, you're hired. Anita, you're fired.
Thank you, Sir.
You're fired. Madge, you're fired.
Thank you for the opportunity, Sir Alan.
Paula, you were responsible for the fatal mistake. So Paula, you're fired. You remind me of the final scene from The Wizard of Oz. You look very impressive. But in my opinion, behind the curtains, there's nothing there. You're fired. You're fired. Philip, you're fired. Joke. Honor, with regret, you're fired.
Thank you for the opportunity.
You're fired.
Thank you very much for a wonderful opportunity, sir.
Howard, you're fired.
Thank you, Sir Alan.
With regret, you're fired.
Thanks, sir. It's been brilliant.
You're fired.
Thank you so much for a great opportunity.
Deborah, you're fired.
Thank you very much, each of you, for your feedback, and I will take it with me and be a success.
My instincts are telling me Yasmina, you're hired.